I'm very excited about it. Obviously, an opportunity for me to come back close to home. Probably wish I would have did it coming out of high school, but I didn't, and went and did something else. But no, just excited to be here. I feel the tradition here. I feel what Coach Diaz and the rest of the staff is doing here. I felt it was something that I can really come in and assist and help build upon. Something great. Coach Diaz is doing a tremendous job of getting the program where it needs to be. I think he's doing it with the right people, and in that bringing in the right kids to get this program where it needed to be. So I wanted to be a part of it. Just speaking with him the little short time I did during the off time, where I got a chance to get with him on some Zoom calls, talk a little football and philosophy and the way he saw the program going, and it was something that I knew I wanted to be a part of.
Great. Coach, we're going to start with Gary Furman from Kane Sport. Gary, go ahead.
Hey, T-Rob, welcome back to Miami. Those of us who have been covering college football for a while have heard your name for years. You've built a reputation as one of the best recruiters in college football, without question. Talk a little bit about how, as a young coach, you derive a reputation like that, and obviously, how that crosses over with what you're able to do as a football coach on the field. And if you had a preference, how would you like to be known as, T-Rob, the coach?
I would say this. I'm a very personable guy. And I think one of the biggest things in college football is creating relationships. I think that's one of the most important things you can do. And that's not just in the recruiting factor. That's more, when you get a kid on campus, is having a relationship with that kid feel like he can come and talk to you about anything, and that the kid will play hard for you. I think one of the most important things for a young man coming on our campus to know about me is that I'm going to coach him hard. I'm going to hold him accountable and responsible for everything that he does, right? But I'm going to love him equally as hard. And I think that's why I'm successful as far as the recruiting part, because it's the same thing. It doesn't change when I'm trying to get a kid and when I have a kid. One of the first things I did when I got here, one would think, well, I called a bunch of recruits and I'm trying to get in communication with a lot of people. Well, really what I did was got our kids in and I got their parents' phone numbers and their guardian phone numbers, and I reached out to them first. Because the one thing I didn't want to do is have parents thinking that, he's calling and getting on these recruits to the people that he don't even have, and he's not taking care of home first. And that's never been the way I like to do things. So, again, that goes back to just the relationships and doing the right thing. And I think that's kind of how I got the reputation. And then your final question, how I would want to be remembered. Not only can I recruit and get your kid, who's a number one player or whatever the case may be, well, I'm going to develop him when he leaves here. He's going to have that same opportunity to be the number one player again, getting ready for the draft and things like that. And that's kind of, how I would like to be remembered. So evaluating talent, and then when you get in the talent, developing the talent, that it can be successful and is a good product that we're putting on the field, whether it's Saturdays or transitioning to Sundays.
Coach, we're going to go to David Furones at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. David, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. You've recruited South Florida plenty over the years, as also Gary just mentioned. But how will recruiting the local area now be different for you and trying to keep kids home as opposed to what you're used to doing all those years and draw them away somewhere else?
I guess it'd be the difference between buying a house and selling the house. When you're buying a house, you're looking for all the stuff wrong to get the price down. All right. When you're selling the house, you're trying to make it look as best you can, so you can charge people more money. I guess the thing for me that's a little different. I can kind of utilize my experiences, right? Like, why didn't I come to the University of Miami is a question that if I was a parent, I'll ask. Did you have an opportunity to come? Yeah. Why didn't you come? Well, the first reason I didn't come because I didn't give it a realistic chance, because I always thought that it was so close to my house that I knew about it, when in actuality, I didn't know about it. My first time really walking on campus was when I got here this time. I didn't know how beautiful campus was, to be quite honest with you, and how much of a campus it looked like when you step inside the doors. And that's one of the things that I would tell them. And then the next part of that is it's a little different, right? I went 10 hours away from school to go to college. And then after the games, I'll walk out of the stadium and I'll see my parents. I'll see other people's parents giving them hugs, hanging out with them, doing all that stuff. But my parents wasn't able to come to that, right? It was a financial burden to be able to come 10 hours, get a hotel, rent a car. I mean, they didn't get a chance to do that much. So I missed that part of it, and it wasn't fair because my mom never missed a game in my entire life until I got to college, where she just couldn't afford to come. And that wasn't fair to do to her. And that's one of the things that I regret, like in my process of not giving my mama the equal amount of time and the equal amount of opportunity to come to the games like she had came when I was in Little League and when I was in high school. So that's kind of the spiel for me, and that's the truth.
Coach, we're going to go to Manny Navarro with The Athletic. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Coach T-Rob, welcome back home. I asked Coach Diaz earlier a recruiting question. I know there's no necessarily any recruits to talk about today, but what do you consider your best personal recruiting victory and why? And I guess in what ways have the recruiting services, maybe changed things for you as a recruiter in your evaluation and pursuit of recruits?
My best recruiting battle. I had a bunch of them. I don't know what would be my best. My easiest was Vernon Hargraves. It was unbelievable to get a player that talented, and didn't have to do a bunch of stuff. Parents was kind of stay the course. I knew the dad he recruited me when he was coaching, so that was the easiest. The toughest will probably be, I guess our pursuit of Dante Fowler. A guy who came to us when we were at Florida. He was a talented young dude who was committed to the other school up top in Tallahassee. And he ended up coming down to our place, and I couldn't believe it because I didn't believe him. He told me he was coming the whole time, and I just didn't believe him. And we kept recruiting him, and he ended up coming. But I'd probably be one of the ones that I wasn't so certain about, I guess. But I've been in a bunch of tough battles, man, in my life. I done won some, and I done lost some, but I done won a lot more than I done lost.
Coach, we're going to go to Barry Jackson at the Miami Herald. Barry, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Just wanted to ask you if you've had a chance to watch any tape and what your impression is of the quality of your safety room, obviously with three veterans, with Bubba, Gervin Hall, and Amari. And also, when you look at James Williams, what do you think as far as how good he can be? Does he remind you of anyone?
I think our guys are extremely talented. I think it's some things that we can do from a discipline standpoint, technique standpoint, that we can do a lot better. And that was kind of the meeting that we had this morning. What was that? Like doing the little things right, whether it be eye control, whether it be proper angles of tackling, whether it be staying in the middle of the field, whatever the case may be, it's the little things. And the thing that my message then, when you take care of the little things in life, the big things will take care of themselves. And that's something that my high school coach instilled in us when I was in high school. And it's something that we need to get back to the basics and the details of your job and do your job. And that was kind of what we did. As far as the talent of the guys, I think they're extremely talented. I think they can play man-to-man. They can play zone. They can do some different things like that. I think they have some game reps behind them. And I think, sometimes, we got to break some of the habits that they have because they've been doing them for a while and get some of that part of it out of there. But I think it helps with new coaching staffs able to do it because there's going to be some different individual drills they're going to do. There's going to be some different way of explaining things that will happen. So I think it'll be good for everybody to kind of get out of their comfort zones. And that's what Coach Diaz talked to the team about today. It's about getting out of your comfort zone and being uncomfortable in your own skin and doing what you need to do. So I think that's going to help us. But I think from an athletic part, what we need, I think from a detailed, we're ways away and we need to get better. Speaking of James, I think he's an athletic, talented dude. It's crazy how the recruiting process worked, right? He wouldn't pick up the phone for me much, all right, when I was trying to recruit him at the other school I was at. And then now, look at me now. So I called him as soon as I took the job, and I said, you've been running away from me for 2 years, all right, and telling me you're going to come down, you're going to hang out, and you never came. Now you got to be nice to me because I kind of control your playing time. So I was messing with him like that. Same thing for Cameron Kitchens and those guys. It's no different. Those guys didn't want to talk to me a couple of months ago, but now all of a sudden, I'm their best buddy. So it's been fun to teach those guys, and I see a lot of guys here that I recruited over the years that didn't come and here now, and I say, well, I just had to follow you, right? So you didn't come where I was at. I came where you were. And you talk about Elijah and some guys like that I just been knowing. So I'm excited to see some of these guys, and that's why I tell these kids, even in the recruiting process, as you go through it, like you never know. You never know. The same people you meet, my grandfather used to say, the same people you meet going up, you're going to meet coming down. And if you do things wrong and you're not handling your business the right way, well, then stuff like this happens, right? The coach come there, and then now you've been a guy who wasn't a good guy, then that's a problem. But, those guys were great guys. Everybody handled their situation appropriately. So I'm excited about these guys, man. I'm excited to be here and be the new guy and get out of my comfort zone, to be honest. I've been with Coach Muschamp for 10 seasons consecutively, and I GA for him before that, a couple years prior before that. But, it's good for me to get out and do some different things, learn some different ways of doing it. It's more than one way to skin a cat. And I'm excited to learn this way, and it's been going good so far.
Coach, we have Gabby Urrutia from 24/7 Sports. Gabby, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. You've been here a couple weeks already. I just wanted to kind of get your early initial thoughts on, some guys you've seen on tape, the 2022, 2023. Just how do you feel about, the quality of talent here in South Florida and in these upcoming classes that you've been able to kind of get ahead of and start watching?
Yeah, well, obviously I can't talk about the recruits that way. But what I will say, this place is always filled with talent, and we're not lacking for that. The surprise is big people. We got a lot of big people around our area in these tri-counties that we're very excited about. And the key to the drill is to keep the big people staying home. And if we can do that, we're going to have a chance to be really, really good. And not just next year, but the year to year to year. It's going to be 3 to 4 years that we're going to have a chance to be really good, because big people change the complexity of a ball game. And you win up front, and that's just how you do it. Now, that'll never change. It's all this fast people and all that kind of stuff going on, but you win the games up front. And we got a bunch of big people around, and I think if we do a great job of keeping those guys close, then we'll have a chance.
Coach, we've got Chris Stock from InsideTheU. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, I was curious about James Williams, just your impressions of his talent and maybe kind of the keys for him to be a productive player at his career at Miami.
Obviously, I hadn't had a chance to put my hands on him and work with him that way. However, just off tape, and he's a big man that can move. So always, watching his weight, making sure he's not getting overweight, because he is a big person. To play secondary and cover and do some of the things that we got to do. He got to do a good job with that, which he definitely will. But I speak to him all the time and just kind of making sure academically he's finishing up the right way and doing all the stuff that he needs to do before he get here. But he's an exciting young player, and he's a physical guy, and he can play multiple spots. But I think that his home will be safety, and he'll be able to do all the techniques and all the things that we do because of his athleticism.
Coach, we got 2 more for you. We're going to go first to David Lake at 24/7. David, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, just want to ask you about Tyrique Stevenson and, what you know about him. What are your thoughts on his talent?
Yeah, well, I played against Tyrique 2 years back to back. So I've been knowing Tyrique for a long time. We recruited him coming out of high school. He's a talented young man who did a really good job at the other school he was, playing some nickel, playing some outside at corner. We'll play him at corner here. And he's a guy that's big, long, and can run, and got ball skills, and he competes. But, his focus, from me knowing him, I guess 3 years ago when he was in high school as opposed to now, you can see how his focus has changed. Here's a guy who's coming in and he knows his business, and he needs to play well for him to accomplish and do all the things that he want to do. But, he's in a great mindset right now, and I'm excited about him, and he got a chance to be a really good football player and compete, to be out there and doing what we need him to do.
Coach, this is the last one for you. We have David Wilson from the Miami Herald. David, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Nice to meet you. I was actually going to ask about Tyrique also, so I'll ask, though, just kind of about the cornerbacks in general, maybe what you saw in film from last year that's kind of stood out, kind of similar to what we were asking about the safeties earlier. What stood out positive, and what do you kind of feel like can
when you start looking at a combination of DJ Ivy, you look at Corey Couch, you look at Al, you look at, those probably the primary 3 guys that played. And when you start to look at those guys, the talent is there. DJ is very talented. Corey, those guys are very talented players. But it's the same thing we talked about in terms of safeties. Just doing the little things. And I think sometimes you get so into the system and systematics, and you lose out on the fundamentals of your position, and it happens everywhere. And sometimes a change is good. So now coming in and reteach some of the things to get those guys to be successful. I think Coach Rump did a really good job with those guys. Just the quality of guys that's in the room, the talent that's in the room. I think we just got to continue to get better and develop. And I think we're on the verge of doing that. Those guys are asked to do a difficult job on a day-to-day basis. And they play a lot of man-to-man. They play a lot by themselves. And, you're going to give up some plays. We can't give up the explosive plays. So as I go through and look at the point of attack tape or when balls was thrown to them or ran to them or whatever, like how are we playing in those situations? And when we give up something, what we do on the next one. And that's one of the things that we're kind of working on right now, of bringing some tapes for those guys that we can sit down and watch it and kind of just go through the entire season of when they had opportunities to make plays. But they're talented. I think Tyrique adds to that room. That gives you 4 quality guys that have played football before, not even counting some of the young guys that played sparingly in some games and got a chance to be good. The Isaiahs of the world, the Marcus Clarks, like some of those guys that played a little. And I think if we continue to develop those guys, we'll get the room where we need it. But I'm excited to work with those guys, and I think Coach Van Dyke is doing an amazing job of relating with those guys and sitting down and going through technique and those things. So I'm excited about where we have the potential to go.